Hi, I'm Femi OK.
And I'm Malika Bilal, and you're in the stream.
Today, has the welcome map been pulled up for refugees wanting to enter Denmark, or is it a welcome with a caveat? We'll take a look at a recent law polarising Danes and making headlines around the world.
And you'll hear from our stream community who've been following the story and sending us their comments to headlines like these.
The new law is affecting our life in a lot of bad things, and one of them, always we are living in a stress with the bad feelings, waiting for the strange laws coming from the government, and that for sure not allowing us to integrate with the Danish society.
Denmark has just enacted one of the toughest measures yet to deter refugees. It's a move that has evoked strong international reaction. You just saw a sample of that. According to the new law, refugees seeking asylum with assets totaling over $1,450 will have to hand those over to the government, although items of sentimental value are exempt. Additionally, they now have to wait at least 3 years before applying for their families to join them. Lawmakers have faced tough criticism, but say the measures have been misrepresented and are needed to support the costs of settling refugees. They also say it will also bring asylum seekers in line with other Danes who seek government benefits. The UN Refugee Agency has warned this could fuel fear and xenophobia and put even more lives at risk. Joining us now to discuss the debate around the new laws from Copenhagen, Kenneth Kristensen Berth is a Member of Parliament for the Danish People's Party. Pernille Skipper is a Member of Parliament for the Red Green Alliance Party. Mikkel Andersson is a journalist at the Berlingske newspaper. And Mohammed, Fattal and Dima Karabash are Syrian refugees who have been in Denmark since November 2014. Good to have you here, everybody. Kenneth, let me start off with a couple of headlines here on my laptop. This is from Foreign Policy. Welcome to Denmark. Now give us all your stuff. This one is from Deutsche Welle, Denmark's daylight robbery of refugees, and then fresh in from the New York Times from today, Denmark's cruelty toward refugees. What is it that these headlines are not getting right, or have they absolutely understood what these new laws in Denmark are designed to do? Kenneth?
Well, you quoted a lot of left-wing media, so I guess it's only natural that they have left-wing viewpoints. You have to remember that in Denmark, if you are a person who would want to collect the social benefits, you have to sell your valuables in order to have social benefits. And of course, it's only fair and square that people coming to our countries contribute with what they now can in order for us to take some of the costs away from the Danish taxpayers. In the coming 4 years, Denmark will use approximately 48 billion kroner to alleviate the problems with people coming here to Denmark. So I think that it's only fair that the people who are able to contribute also contribute.
Pernille, has the left-wing press, as Kenneth liked to describe it, have they got this wrong about what's actually happening inside Denmark with these new laws?
Well, I think they've got the one thing right, and that is the message that has been sent from our government and Kenneth as a part of the majority in Denmark passing this law. They want to, I think, which is the most important thing, send a message to refugees that it's uncomfortable or to come to Denmark, or at least discourage refugees from coming to Denmark, hoping they'll choose another country. And at the same time, they also want to send a message into, I believe, the Danish society, saying that refugees have valuables, or sending mixed messages, at least causing people, to think maybe that refugees come to Denmark with a lot of money. That being said, it's not quite true, because refugees and every Danish citizen have to pay their own welfare if they can, if they have money. The change in this new law is that you can now search and seize valuables from refugees, and that is not legal to do on Danish citizens, even though they are unemployed. So there is a difference between Danish citizens and refugees in this case. But I think the worst part and also the most important part from the majority and the government has been the message sending out into the world, and well, that's discouraging, I think.
And though I think it is important to note that most people online, at least those who are tweeting into us, have picked up on that search and seize that you mentioned, Pernille. There's a tweet here from Benjamin who says, humanitarian aid is about helping the damned and the desperate, not mugging them at the gates whilst they flee for their lives. And there are other tweets like that. But Mikkel, I want you to listen to this video comment we got from two journalists who've written about this for the Al Jazeera website. They're in Denmark, and they say something similar to what Pernille said earlier about this being symbolic. So have a listen.
The governmental party has said that this is the most misunderstood piece of legacy ever. And it's true that not everything that's been said about it has been equally true. So we have tried to clarify what is this law actually about.
And while doing this, the people we've talked to, that the actual impact of the law might be smaller than is now currently reported. Instead, they said it is really important to look at the symbolics of this law. And according to them, the government is saying, with implementing this law, do not come here. Don't apply for asylum in Denmark.
So Mikkel, is it just symbolic, and is it working?
Well, I think yes to both questions. It's a symbolic law. It's not something that I think we'll see implemented in any real sense, and it's designed to send a signal. It's designed to say that, well, refugees should consider applying for asylum in other countries. That would be my assessment. I mean, there are similar laws in many other countries, Switzerland, Holland, Norway, also parts of Germany. So it's not that it's that new or original, but I mean the government has been intending to send out a signal, and they've certainly succeeded in doing that. And is it working? Yes, I think something indicates that it might be. We've seen a consistent drop in the number of people seeking refuge in Denmark throughout January. And that also may be due to the weather, even though we have to remember that a huge number of people are crossing the Mediterranean, even now. I mean, in January, which is normally the month when least people are crossing, and it's the levels of this January, they're like July of last year or something like that. So yeah, I think it might be working, but then it's very hard to say because the situation is extremely fluid. So it could be that working. It could also be that Austria has tightened its borders. So yeah.
If I can just say that I think it's true that it probably has been working in the sense that it pushes refugees towards other countries. We've seen not only with this law, but also previous laws and passings from our government in Denmark, even ads in Lebanese newspapers saying that the laws in Denmark for family reunification are horrible, trying to push refugees away towards other countries. I think it might be working, but it's going to be such a short run because, as you were saying, Mikkel, other countries will follow. I think, unfortunately, this will give good ideas or bad ideas to other countries, which will follow. And we have a problem in Europe that nobody's really taking any leadership, but only trying to push refugees onto neighboring countries in Europe. So if everything goes as bad as you can expect, other countries will now do the same. And refugees will start coming back to Denmark, and then Kenneth and the rest of the majority in Denmark will have to pass even worse laws. And I can't bear to imagine where we'll end up as a society and a community if that happens.
Let me just bring in Mohammed and Kenneth, hold tight for a moment, because I know you won't forget what you're about to say, but I just want to bring in Mohammed and Dima here. There's a little report, in fact it was a two-part report from the Local, and it says here, before Denmark we had a better life in Syria, and then part 2 comes up here. We heard that people were nice in Denmark. They've got two little ones. We've got Mahmoud and Karim, and you were granted asylum in 2015. You're listening to this debate, Mohammed, and also Dima. How is it to hear this? People talking about people like you, and the idea is that maybe they don't actually want you to be in Denmark. What's your reaction?
Yeah, it's hard. It's not easy to hear people saying that we don't want you here and we are trying our best to prevent you to come to Denmark. Because what we see from the people, from the normal people we see every day, they are super friendly, and it's really, really a little bit of people who has been not welcoming, not more than that. But the message is being sent not by especially taking the jewelry or the precious thing from the refugees. It's sent by what worries the refugees, what worries someone is fleeing out from Syria is the family reunification. It's the biggest thing we had, because the journey for the one who didn't try it, it's something you can't imagine. It's super hard, and I don't know how we dare to do it with 2 kids. But it's the family reunification, it's what's going to stop people from coming here.
And let me just remind people that it would be 3 years if you apply for asylum before you could bring the rest of your family to Denmark with you.
Well, that's actually not entirely correct. What you have, it's about 20% of those who apply for asylum who are eligible to the extended period. The rest, those who are covered by the conventions, which is about around 80% of the refugees, they'll still be able to apply for family reunification under the current rules. I think Pernille, she's a parliamentarian, she could correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
And what's the thinking behind making it longer for families to be together again? What's the point of that, Kenneth?
Well, the point is quite easily that the people who are coming to Denmark, the vast majority of them are coming from safe camps in Turkey, in Lebanon, in Jordan, and so on. So their family are in those camps. We know that because we know that it's from these camps that people are reunified in Denmark. And it's not very sensible to take people who are already not at risk any longer and replant them in Denmark. We should help people in the neighboring countries first and foremost. And I acknowledge totally that we, or Europe as a whole, has not done our deal when it comes to that. We should have done more, we should have used more money, and we should have put more perspective in the camps in those 3 countries.
So Kenneth, hold tight for 1 minute. I just want to make sure I understand this correctly. So one part of the family is already in Denmark. You want them to wait, Mikkel actually explained it in a little bit more detail there, but for where it applies for 3 years before they can be reunified. So the idea is that you just don't want them to be in Denmark in the first place. It's a deterrent.
I've not asked these people to come to Denmark. They have chosen freely to go to Denmark. They had maybe 10 or 12 other countries they could go to before they ended up in Denmark.
So you rather they don't end up in Denmark?
I acknowledge that these people were refugees when they left Syria, but then they stayed months and years in camps in Turkey and Lebanon and so on, and then decided all of a sudden that they wanted to go to Europe, to have a new existence there. That is migration. That is people fleeing war.
Sorry. This is not immigration. This is refugees. They are fleeing war, and what has happened to them that they have passed through many countries.
They want a better life in Europe, which I can perfectly understand. We just don't necessarily have to give it to them, because this costs enormous amounts of money. So these people, they will not.
Kenneth, we are one of the richest.
There will be no more money up for them.
All right, so I hear these people, and these people are 2 guests that we actually have in the conversation, Mohammed and Dima. I see you shaking your head. Go ahead. What did you want to say?
This is funny things about talking about we're running after money, because we know from the first moment when we decide to leave Syria, we know we had, as you mentioned before, we had a better life in Syria, and we know for the first minute when we left that we will have a less quality of the life. And we left only not because our future or thinking about money, we just left because we have 2 kids and we want to make them have a best future, because we think that our future lost now. So we just want to make them in a safe place, have a good opportunity.
Also, Mohammed and Dima, I just want to tell our audience that the reason you left was because the bombs were getting closer and closer to your home, and you had babies. It wasn't because you wanted to live in Denmark.
No. No. It's of course we have bombs, and you can be killed in any moment, and it's not safe anymore. You can't leave your home at night, and the one who carries the weapons or gun, he's put the rules now in Syria. So we can't live. It's not normal to live in this this climate or this weather. So we live just to save our kids, to have a better future for them. And we're trying our best. Of course, before we reach Denmark, I just want to mention this. We stay at Germany, and we have family, we have some member family in Germany, and we were thinking about staying in Germany, but we discovered, and I heard from my friends, that in Denmark they speak English with anyone, and it's not a problem. We try to speak English in Germany, but I don't know what the problem. They refuse to talk with us, and in Denmark the process of the asylum, it's very fast. So that's what choose Denmark, not about financial situation or social benefits. We're just thinking to start our life quickly. That's what we want.
All right, let me just go to the community. Malika.
I do want to share this sentiment that we got for you, Dima and Mohammed. This is on Twitter. Dima and Mohammed, you changed our lives. We're so proud of you. You make my country more human again. We need you. So that is one sentiment from someone in Denmark. But then I want to transition to a video comment, Kenneth, and I will direct this to you. This is from a fellow citizen of yours. This is Kashif Ahmed. Have a listen to what he said.
What concerns me about this new law passed in Denmark is that there is a clear connotation and similarity to the Germany in the 30s and 40s, but I do know that there is a silent majority in Denmark who wants change and who supports solidarity. So therefore we look forward to a brighter future in Denmark and to stop these horrible bills to get passed.
So Kenneth, what do you make of that silent majority?
Well, first of all, I know that Mr. Kashif Ahmed do not know the first thing about history if he thinks that this has anything to do with the situation in Germany in the 30s and 40s. You might remember that what the Nazi Germany was doing was killing Jews. I'll just let that stand. They were killing Jews. And I think it's absolutely disgraceful for a person who is a Danish citizen to say here on international television that there are any connotations between what was happening in Germany in the 30s and 40s and what is happening today. That is shameful. But on the other hand, I know that Mr. Kashif Ahmed is trying to launch his own political career. It didn't go so well in this spring, but maybe he'll succeed now that he has shamefully been so distasteful towards his country.
If we could stay a bit on topic. I agree with you on one thing.
I'm staying on topic, Pernille. I hope you will not regard this as a genuine commentary. Even the unity list must say that this has gone too far. Making collaborations with Denmark and Nazi Germany, that is unacceptable.
I don't know what you mean with gone too far, but I agree with you on one thing, is that luckily we are not in the material of the law close to Nazi Germany, of course. But on the other hand, I understand why somebody outside of Denmark could get that idea from the symbolic, the pure symbolic of the jewelry law that has been passed. The worst one that you passed is definitely the one on family reunification, because it means that families are being kept apart for years with no reason whatsoever, other than the fact that you want them to stay away from Denmark, and you think that is apparently somehow okay can I just finish the sentence, that people are staying in Lebanon where millions and millions of people. So let me just say one thing, is that Lebanon in there now as a neighboring country to Syria has millions of refugees trying to take care of them. I believe that Denmark, as one of the richest countries in the world, need to take our part of the responsibility as well.
Okay, Pernille, let me bring in Mikkel.
Yeah.
Mikkel, go ahead.
Sorry.
I think actually, if we speak about Lebanon, I think that there is a lack of realism in this situation. I mean, in Lebanon, there is somewhere between 1 and 2 million refugees currently staying, and most of them are either they're living on their own means or they're receiving aid from the UN. Well, the budget of the UNHCR in Lebanon, that's, as if I recall correctly, just around $600 million US. I mean, Denmark's refugee budget was raised by more than that just last year. I mean, what Denmark raised its budget for receiving refugees with could have funded the entire UNHCR refugee situation or help effort in Lebanon. Instead, we used it to help something around 17,000 people, and I mean, it's not like it's not like that. I'm saying that was a bad thing that we helped these people. It was a good thing.
Let me show you a headline.
There is a perspective.
Mikkel and Pernille and Kenneth, let me just show you something here on my laptop. This is from BuzzFeed News, and this is a headline that caught our eye. The adorable moment a policeman sat down to play with a Syrian refugee. This was on the Danish-German border. You see this picture. I believe this is how a lot of the world actually sees Denmark, so they're a little bit surprised about how strict these new refugee laws are. I'm wondering what's actually happening inside Denmark that's making this necessary. Mikkel, have people changed their approach to refugees? Is it numbers?
I don't think people have changed. I think there is this perception that, well, because it's a statistically small number, it's an easy thing to do to integrate people in Denmark. But Denmark is a welfare state. And I mean, the way we are spending people is that we're spending very huge sums of people. One refugee in Denmark.
All right, so I hear that, and you made that perfectly. I wanted to know what's going on inside Denmark. What has attitudes changed? People, I'm not talking finances, I'm talking Danes. Like that policeman on the border with the little girl. Yeah. That's people-to-people interaction. That's a community going on.
I don't think so. I don't think that people's attitudes have changed, but I think that the approach towards the crisis as such has changed. I don't think that people are saying that people as such as Dima and Mohammed, who seem like, I mean, I would do exactly what they have done if I were in their case. It's not like they're saying that they're bad people.
So you would.
So
what would you do if the country that they went to said, actually, give us any assets over 1450 that you've got, and also we're going to cut your benefits and also going to make it quite difficult, and we don't want any more people like you to come to the country. How would you feel like if we reversed it?
Yeah. If we reversed it, I'd probably think that was an unpleasant thing to do. But on the other hand, I mean, this is not something we can see. Currently, all of Northern Europe is facing, again, in January, there's come around 10 times as many refugees. We have to face that this is a demographic problem in some sense. We can't just say that we are doing, but because according to the convention...
Just give me a pause for a moment, because I just want to bring in the community before we wrap up this part of the show.
Well, when we talk about what people in Denmark are thinking of this is IPA, who says it's not sitting well with a lot of people, including a majority of social democrat voters, though their party voted in favor of this. And there's also a video comment from someone who talks about the repercussions of what this might mean. So Mohammed, I want you to have a listen to Morten.
In Trampton House, we think that this new law is an example of failed communication on the part of the government. It's a punishment of those who are already here because the government wants to scare others from coming to Denmark. This will lead to a decline of our international reputation, but it will also obstruct the efforts to integrate the refugees who are already in our society.
Mohammed or Dima, do you feel like you're being punished?
Not yet, not so much. I want to mention something first. I think the biggest problem it's about rumors. There's a lot of rumors here in Denmark, and this has happened with me personally. When we were in a youth center before we get our papers, our residence paper, I get my residence paper in one of the biggest cities in Denmark, and the one of the Danish employment in this youth center, he told me that you will be unlucky if they moved you to some neighbors. I will not mention any names, but if you move to this neighbor, you will have a lot of problems. I remember I asked him why, and he told me there is a lot of refugees, a lot of Muslims, and they are criminals, and you can't go at night. And I was shocked because I can't imagine this happen in Denmark. So when I moved to this place and I go to this neighborhood, I found this is only rumors, and there is nothing, any problem, and just saying that he hears something, but just like this. So this, especially this new government, they still talk about us, about the refugee, and they should not compare us with the refugees, the Palestinian when they came in 1985.
Okay, so Mohammed and Dima, I'm going to ask you something very simple, because we're right at the end of the show. Dima, if you had a chance to pick Denmark again, knowing what you know now, would you?
no, with a chance of, I will not do this trip with my kids again. No chance. But if I would know
Dima,
that
Karabash,
there's
and
a
Mohammed,
20%.
and Pernille, and Mikkel and Kenneth. We'll pick up this conversation online at stream.aldazira.com. Thanks for watching. Hello again. We're discussing a refugee law in Denmark that has been polarizing opinions around the world, and obviously on this conversation as well. Malika, where do you want to start?
Well, there is some sentiment online, really, that people kind of understand why this law has been enacted. This is Martin, and he describes it like this: the open doors, starry-eyed, unthinking refugees welcome, he puts in quotes, attitude made this not only possible, but it made it inevitable. Kenneth, do you think that explains why this was voted in?
Well, I think that the political position of the different political parties in Denmark has changed a lot the last half year. And that is probably due to the situation where Angela Merkel this autumn more or less sent out the message to the whole of the world that they could just come to Europe. And of course, then people came because when invited will come. And so the mass influx to Denmark and the situation in our schools, our daycare centers and so on, where people we have to cut, the municipalities have to cut down on services to finance all these asylum seekers. Well, it changed the opinion of many of these parties who normally, I won't say in favor of asylum seekers coming, but who hasn't had the critical distance that we in the Danish People's Party have had for years.
So if you listen to public opinion in Denmark, where would they be split? Kenneth, do you feel?
Sorry, you have to repeat that.
Yeah, if you listen to public opinion in Denmark, how much do you feel that they're aligned with politicians, or do you feel that there's Danes are not in line with politicians?
I think the Danes are very much in line with the politicians on this aspect. Because if you look upon opinion polls, not only this year, but the last 10 years, almost continuously people have been in favor of a more strict immigration policy. And of course, that's because many people find that it is a problem that a homogeneous society like the Danish one is changing into a more, I won't say multicultural, but bicultural society. And of course, that gives problems in schools where different opinions cross each other and so on. So yes, it gives problems. And I know that Pernille is laughing. Pernille is safe and sound in her flat there and doesn't have these problems in her own area. But many Danish people have problems. And I think the Unity List should acknowledge this.
I think I acknowledge that integration, of course, is a challenge in any society, and that immigration is a new thing for the Danish society. But I do not acknowledge that it's supposed to be almost the end of the world as we know it. And sometimes it can sound like that when you speak. We actually have a fairly successful integration in Denmark since the 90s. We have only had more and more immigrants actually and refugees actually come taking a job. And I think one of the worst things that comes from this law and laws similar to it is that you divide our country even more. You're sending a message not only to the outside world that Denmark is not welcoming, which is just not true. You're also sending a message into the Danish society that refugees are people of wealth, that they're here for our welfare and not because they're on the run. And that is going to hurt integration. People waiting for their families to come for years is not going to integrate them into the society. And Danish citizens hearing that refugees supposedly have valuables over 10,000 Danish kroner is not going to increase integration. So I think maybe if you realize that people
should go back when they're safe and sound again in their own country. They should not be integrated into Danish society. We've been trying that since the beginning of the 80s without any success. The same has the whole of Western Europe.
We have had success.
Of course, if your threshold of success is the current situation, then okay, I rest my case.
Dima, I heard you jumping in there, so I actually want to show you something. These are two views. Dima, I want to just show two views from people online that might back up what you're going to say. This is Hark, who wrote on Facebook, "It's wrong to assume refugees come to Europe for social welfare. They want to live a normal life. Whatever possessions they bring might help them to set up such a life." We also got another comment, and that's also on Facebook. This is from Jill. I want to show you what she says. "The refugees themselves have been fed lies about what it would be like, and they've been disappointed with the reality." So you touched on this a little bit earlier about whether or not you would do it all over again. Dima?
Yes, because now someone's saying that it's saying it like as if it's a punishment to be sent back to Syria. It's what we hope, that things will be safe and sound again in Syria and we will go back. It's something we hope for, but if it doesn't happen, I can't stop the life of my children for like 5 or 10 years just to be hoping the things will be better again. I will try my best to build a decent life here in Denmark, to fit in the society and not feeling that they want to push me away. And if I could go back, maybe I will get back. But if doesn't, so I should start building my life from the beginning.
See, I'm convinced, Mohammed and Dima, that when people think about Syrian refugees, they don't necessarily think about people like you. So, Mohammed, what did you do when you lived in Damascus?
Yeah, I was the last 5 years before from 2009 till 2014. I was working in a bank as senior accountant.
And
finance and administration. Yeah.
Dima, before you had the kids, what did you do?
I graduated Fine Arts College from Damascus University as an interior designer.
So the situation that you find yourself in is like you couldn't even in your wildest dreams have imagined that. So when people are saying things about refugees and wanting to push them around Europe or pushing them into refugee camps that are closer to Syria, what is your reaction to that? What's your response back?
I don't know. It's not fair to do this because in Turkey it's safe, okay, but they are not giving anything. The kids in Turkey, in the camps in Turkey, they are not getting any education. People are spending a lot of time doing nothing, and this is nothing good to start rebuilding Syria after the war stops someday. We have to have educated people, balanced kids, not having a lot of troubles, to be able to build something from the beginning.
Yeah, and
yeah, Mikkel and Kenneth both have a response. So Kenneth, go ahead.
Well, I understand that viewpoint, and that's also why we said from the Danish People's Party is that we wanted to give more money to these to the UN in order to build up some camps who actually function. I've mentioned myself the Camp Ashraf in Iraq, where the People's Mujahideen of Iran stayed for a number of years and actually built a well-functioning society. I think that a camp like Camp Ashraf should have been like a goal for the camps in Turkey, Lebanon, and Jordan. So people.
Kenneth, but I want to be practical here, Kenneth, because we've got Kareem, who's 5, Mahmoud, who's 2. How long do you want them to wait before something that fits your idea is available to them closer to Syria? That's not realistic, is it?
As I've said earlier too, I wanted this to happen much before, but unfortunately the European Union didn't address this issue early enough. I think now we are in a situation where we have to do something right now. We have to send more money. Denmark has gone forward on this. I hope other countries will do as well, because Europe can't solve this problem by just having people coming to Europe. You know, many people are coming here, asylum seekers. They're coming to the north and northwestern part of Europe, whereas no one are coming to the eastern part of Europe or like Portugal and Spain. It's even nicer weather down there. So, but you know, it's North Europe and Northwestern
Kenneth,
Europe.
Kenneth, you know as well as I do that the asylum systems in Italy and Greece have totally fallen apart, and that happened years ago because the northern of Europe, rich countries as ourselves, did not lift our part of the responsibility.
So you don't think we've taken enough? Oh, I think the vast majority of Danish disagree.
I think that Denmark can handle 21,000 people. We are one of the richest nations in the world. Does that mean that we need to...
500 after family reunification.
Excuse me. I think we can handle that. Does that mean that we need to prioritize differently? Yes, it does. And it means also that, yes, the tax reduction...
40,000 every year, Pernille Skipper.
Yeah, I think...
we want to have a fair opportunity as people, as we are educated. We want the opportunity to start doing something, to participate into the Danish community. We want to work. We don't want to be supported by the government or by the financial situation. We don't want to stay on benefits forever. We are trying to work as fast as possible.
Sorry, just a problem. They don't know our culture. In our culture, it's shame for men just to sit at home and getting money. It's not our culture. We want to work and we have education. And a week ago, I got my papers evaluated to a Danish bachelor in accounting in finance. And now I want to apply a master. So we are just trying our best to help Denmark to get out of the contact help they call social benefits. We don't want social benefits. We want to have our opportunity. Just give us opportunity and we will do it. Yeah.
Mikkel, go ahead.
And if I could...
I understand completely, but I mean, if you look at the employment rates currently for Syrian refugees coming here, they're around 25% and even lower than that for those arriving within the last few years. And I mean, that's the official Danish statistics. I mean, Denmark is, and I'm not saying that that's the fault of the Syrian refugees. That might as well be a blame. Somewhat saying you could say that the Danish welfare system has part of the blame for it. But I mean, it's nonetheless, it's a fact. And the integration in Denmark, it's not working. Integration in Denmark is broken. We have one of the largest differences between the regional population and non-Western immigrants of any OECD country. It's huge. I mean, to say that integration works in Denmark, that's wrong. I think the fundamental problem, though, is that
people feel worse about themselves when they come here. It will not help integration whatsoever.
No, but it's a fundamental issue. I mean, if we look at the numbers for the people arriving from Syria, there are 4 million people living in the nearby countries currently. If we look at the statistics, 10 times as many have crossed in January than last year in January. If so many people cross, then what is Europe going to do? We're going to leave the conventions.
Pernille, briefly, because now I have to wrap up, guests, and just as we're getting to the real nitty-gritty of the conversation, we're wrapping it up. Pernille, very briefly, what do you want to say?
I just want to say that you can toss numbers around as much as you want. You're not going to change the fact that people are going to flee Syria and Afghanistan, and they're going to come to Europe. We as a country can handle that. And just to back up Mohammed and Dima, just last month, I think, there was a campaign in Denmark trying to get Danes to have more children, because we are simply not having enough children to keep our society working. So we do need you, and we need the Danish companies also to be better at integration and welcoming people with other languages even more, because we do need you to keep up a good welfare system.
I wish you could see Kenneth's face. He's horrified at that. Kenneth, we're not going to unpack that anymore because unfortunately I do not have time, but I would love to take this conversation a little bit further. But for now, Malika, that's the last word.
Well, I'll end with this tweet from Kashif Ahmed, who you heard a video comment from before. And Kashif, of course, is a prominent politician, and he's the chairman of the National Party in Denmark. He says, Danes are known for solidarity, not for scaring people away. This is not Denmark.
Kenneth, Mikkel, Pernille, Mohammed, Dima, I know we could go on for another hour, but we don't have that time. But I want to thank you for your time today, for being on the stream. Take care, everybody.